Hey guys, this is Shay Jose, and today I'll be bringing you a tutorial based on one of my up-and-coming productions, or one of my up-and-coming tracks that will be released in the next couple of months. I thought it would be a good idea to break down the vocal processing and the vocal chains I use when I'm working with singers, and how we bring a raw vocal, how we comp it, put effects on it like reverb, and create things like fake harmonies, doubles, triples, to really make a vocal come alive. So I'll go through the breakdown of this track, which is called Voices, which should be out in the next couple of months, and hopefully you get some good ideas for your own productions. Alright guys, so let's get started. Let me first start by saying that you can't polish a turd. You probably heard this saying before. So the output of how good the vocals are going to sound are going to be based on how good the recording was done. So if your singer hasn't recorded the vocals correctly, if they've been too close to the mic, so you get a lot of the p and t's coming out, so a lot of the plosives coming through. If the room's not treated correctly, that's all gonna be emphasized even more when you start processing the vocals. So I would say that if you get a vocal track and you feel the recording is or hasn't been done to the best of the ability that it could be done, as in treated correctly, recorded correctly, I would say get that re-recorded, because it's just going to make your life a lot easier when you start kind of processing the vocals. Now, if they're a good singer, they're going to know their voice and they're going to know how to actually get the most out of their vocal performance. But every singer is different. So let me just start by saying that. So for my luck here, Luke is actually quite a really good singer. So as such, he really knows what he's doing. So we've got a lot of the vocal tracks stacked up here. As you can see, quite a few vocal tracks in here, harmonies and whatnot. So there's quite a bit of things that I've been able to actually work with. So we've got our main track, instrumental track at the top here, and I'll really just break down the process of how I go about comping the vocals, processing them, and this is something you can use for your productions as well. So first of all, we've grabbed the main vocal in here, and we've just melodined this particular vocal. It has been set to the root key, and we've adjusted some of the pitch drifts. I'm not going to go too much into melodyne because it is quite a tedious process to get this done. However, you can, if you do set the key of the root song, you can just use the pitch center and pitch drift, and that will kind of get you about 80% of the way there, and then just kind of adjust the different vibratos and whatnot to each of the single notes. So I've done that throughout the track already, for the entire performance, at least on the main vocal, and that took me probably about an hour to do, so I won't cover it here because it is, like I said, quite tedious and probably one of the things I hate doing the most. So once you've got that kind of printed within your melodyne, it's all about trying to treat the vocal and then remove some of the imperfections where possible. So what I've done here, I've actually just grouped all these settings, but we'll go through each one. We've applied some RX declick to get rid of some of the clicking sound that's come through. Actually, before doing that, what I actually did do is I actually split up the phrases in between each of the words as he was singing, and so you can do that by in Ableton, just Command D, and look at actually fading in each of the words. This is actually going to give you a even cleaner performance, and really when you start compressing, a lot of this is just going to be silent, so it's going to make it a lot easier. So I've actually gone through that process already here, so I won't repeat it. And then the next thing I did is actually just run a declicker through the main vocal, RxDX plosive, so this will look after any of the purse and that would have come through as part of the recording. And also the mouth declick. This is actually gets rid of a lot of the you might hear some singers do on their vocal performance. The next thing that you need to do is actually do some gain automation. Now, There is plugins that you can use, such as Vocal Writer, which I've got there on the chain. However, I find that if you actually start doing manual adjustments or auto gain on the actual on the manually across the vocals, you will get a better performance. So as you can see here, I've actually adjusted the volume, increased some components where they were quiet, decreased some components where they were too loud, across the entire vocal stem. Next up to that, I've just added a vocal writer. So what this will do is actually just write the vocal even a little bit better than I have already done manually. And this will actually try and give you a more normalized performance. So what we'll do is I'll just play this track, the main lead vocal, and I'll let you hear it without these few effects, and then these 4 effects that I've added in here. So this is without.
I close my eyes as I breathe in. It's no surprise I'm caving in.
And now with the effects that we've added.
I close my mind to see again an open sky, clear sunset.
So just with those few adjustments in there, we already have more of a balanced volume level in the vocal, which is great. Now, the next thing I usually do is I'll add an EQ and roll off some of the unwanted lows. You really don't need anything around here in 87. Now, you can actually just do a low shelf like this, or you can actually do a cut, depending on taste. I found that actually I still wanted to feed some of kind of that low rumble. It actually, the vocals were sounding a little bit too thin, so I opted for this kind of shape, and I boosted some of the highs. Now we've got some dynamic processing here in some of the other sections with the vocals. Maybe we're just sticking out a little bit too much.
I close my mind to see again.
And that's actually just controlling some of those, the 700 to 300 range in the EQ frequency. Moving on, we added some compression. Now, I'm a big fan of doing compression in stages. I tend to think you get a better performance by doing that, and rather than having just one compressor smash the crap out of the vocals in one hit. So we added just a little bit of RVox. I love this compressor. It's really easy to use. It's literally just the comp gain. It's very similar to the CLA, but I will say that it's just got a little bit of a different texture. So I tend to use different compressors to get a different sound as well. So I added the comp for this.
I close my mind to see again.
I'm probably getting about 3 dB of compression in there. I then added the Slate Digital. So this is a Neve EQ. So we're just boosting a little bit of the highs there. Nothing too crazy. And then a FG116 compressor in there with about 50% mix. So this just gives it a little bit more shine and a little bit more compression.
I close my mind to see again.
So moving on, one of the things that will happen sometimes when you start adding compression is you'll start to get a little bit of the S's coming through. So I added a de-esser in there just to control some of those syllables coming through as well. So you will see that. I usually run this in oversampling as well, and just kind of adjust the threshold and the range to taste. So
I close my mind to see again.
So that's just controlling some of the yeses in there. And then for good measure, I ended up putting the good old CLA 2A just for a little bit more compression. So altogether, this sounds like this.
I close my mind to see again.
So that's basically the comping on the lead vocal done. Now, this is where the magic kind of happens. This is where you start putting in your effect racks and whatnot. So I do have this vocal effect rack that I've been using for ages. Just comment below if you want me to send you this. You will need to have the plugins, obviously, to be able to run this. But essentially what we're doing is we've got a plate reverb running some Valhalla vintage verb. and rolling off some of the lows because I didn't want to have any of that low rumble coming through as part of the reverb. We've got an echo, and I'm just running the slate repeater here, nothing too crazy, 1/8 and 1/4. And we're actually side chaining this to the original dry signal to make sure that we don't have any of these repeat phrases coming through when the main vocal is running. And then finally, we've got another reverb. I believe this is a Valhalla Vintage Verb as well, with a longer decay time, and once again compressed to the dry vocal. So all together, now this vocal with the FX rack now sounds like this.
I close my mind to see again. An open sky, clear sunset.
So that just gives the that's just a single vocal stem process. So I tend to spend a lot more time on my leads than I do on my harmonies, but I do tend to process them individually as well. So once I've kind of finished that, what I will do is I will align all the harmonies that have been created in different spaces, and if your singer is a good singer, they should be able to give you your doubles and your harmonies, obviously in different pitches, so to get a little bit of a different vocal performance each time you stack them. I will go into a way of how to actually create some fake harmonies as well, which I've done here. Just think you just need a little bit of something, and I've covered this in other videos as well. But essentially what I've done here, nothing too crazy. Then what I've done is actually taken the first few phrases in there, put a long reverb in there, and just reverse it to give you that kind of fade in effect. There's a lot of YouTube tutorials covering this on how to do it, so I won't actually go into that now. But I'll let you hear them together.
I close my eyes.
And that's just a nice way to actually come into the first verse. So after I've done that, that's pretty much my main vox is kind of done. I do add some return channels, which I'll cover in a little bit. But let's move on to the harmonies. In the harmony stages here, we've got I might just turn all the processing off. Let me see if I can grip it all here. And turn this off. So what I've done here, I've got the first harmony that Luke sent me as well.
As I breathe in, there's no surprise. I'm caving in.
So it's quite a good harmony. Like I said, I've had to clean it up a little bit, similar to what I did in the main vocal there. We've added on this one. I haven't actually used Melodyne to actually fix the auto pitching and the vibrato and whatnot. So I do get a bit lazy. Sorry for that, but I tend to lose a lot of interest when I'm actually producing vocals. So what I ended up doing is I actually grouped all the harmonies, and I just really just used Metatune, which is another auto tuning software that comes as part of Slate. Left it to the root key and just adjusted it to taste, so that will actually capture how the vocal performance and making sure it kind of stays in key. Once again, vocal writer. So as you can see in here, we've done a lot of writing on the vocals manually already, and vocal writer kind of just re-emphasizes that a little bit more. A little bit of compression once again, nothing too crazy, but basically the same sort of chain, a de-esser in there, and I'm adding some fresh air just to give it a little bit more air in the top of the harmonies there, and some EQ to taste as well. I've actually mapped some more effects into the return channels in here. Follow this along. We'll move on to the next part, which will be adding some extra harmonies. Now, I've done this before in another video that you can find on my channel. It'll be linked at the top here if you want to have a look at more in-depth breakdown of how that's done. But essentially what you do is you would just grab a copy of the main lead or the main vocal stem and add a little altar boy in there. you want to link the little altar boy into a MIDI channel as such, which will then have the keys of the root key, or potentially any keys in the chord progression that you want the singer to follow. So by doing so, little altar boy will actually then look at changing the pitch and the format to follow the roots that you have put into your MIDI. Set this to robot. Make sure it's always set to robot, and the drive and mix to taste. And this should give you a result something similar to this.
How far we go, where we knew was what we saw. Distant echoes from above, these voices I've heard before.
So that will basically, it allows you to manipulate the vocals in such a way where the singer may not be able to reach such high keys. So that's a really cool way to actually process your vocals as well. And like I said, I've gone into more depth on how to set this up previously. I've actually just added some more harmonies here. Nothing too great, just pan them left to right. One thing to note is you want to actually offset these ones a little bit from the main, the main, I guess the main channel that you're doing for your vocals, just so you don't have any phasing issues as well, and just panning them left to right. So nothing too crazy there. Once again, on all these channels, I've actually done a little bit of tuning on the volumes as well. As you can see there, adjusted them to taste. The last thing I usually do, and I don't always do this, but I feel sometimes if it needs a little bit more atmosphere, what I'll probably do is actually just end up setting some return channels with some different saturation, different delays. And this is a really cool plugin. This is DJ Swivel's Source. This will actually also set some fake harmonies. So these are set to serving the fifth. So basically, you'll pick up the root note and play a fifth above it, and you can adjust that to taste. So what I've done is I've actually put a lot of these vocal stems to run across some of these return channels, and by doing so we get a much richer vocal performance. The trick that I also do as well, which a lot of people, at least I haven't seen a lot of people actually do, is sometimes I don't do it on this project as I'm just kind of bouncing the vocal, but what I will do is actually add a high reverb as well. It's kind of like a shimmer to actually just glue the entire vocal performance together, and I tend to find that actually gives it a nice way to actually bring it all together to sound unified when you're playing it. Finally, I've just grouped everything into one master stem or bus channel, where I might just add in a little bit more compression with the FG116 vintage. Smooth operator. I do have Soothe as well, but it kills my CPU, and I just tend to find that this is just a lot lighter in there. Tends to do about the same thing, so removing some of the harshness as well, so it's just a dynamic EQ really. A de-esser again, as we're stacking a lot of the vocals, so you will find a lot of the S's coming through, so just to control that a little bit, and just a tiny little bit of limiting there, just to kind of normalize the entire sound. So all together, they sound like this. Maybe I'll just play it through on the... Let's have a look. Let's play it through, here, in the chorus.
Wonder how far we go, far we knew was what we saw. Distant echoes from above, these voices I've heard before.
So my computer's having a bit of a moment there, unfortunately, recording and playing all these channels with all this processing. Yeah, it's having a bit of a moment, but that's basically it, guys. So that's the way I kind of do my vocal processing. And now in the context of the song, this song is not released yet, but I'll give you a little bit of a preview just so you can see what it kind of sounds like. Okay guys, I've opened up the other project now, so I'll let you hear what this sounds like once it's inside the main project. What I've done here is actually I decided to, rather than have one complete stem with all the vocals, I did split out the harmonies and the main vocal as well from its own bus. Added a little bit more compression and a little bit of glue across into a vocal bus. And I sidechained the vocal to a sidechain channel, or to the audio of the kick a little bit. So just so it sounded like it was, I wanted it to kind of sound like it was pumping a little bit with the kick, just so it kind of all felt uniform. Now, further to this, I've just routed some of these channels, these harmonies and whatnot, across to a large bass reverb, hybrid reverb in there, which kind of just glues it all together. A little bit of saturation, nothing too crazy. And that basically is it. So I'll let you hear that in context of the song and how it all sounds together once it's back into the project. So this is my track called Voices. I don't know when it's going to be released, but I'll give you a little bit of a preview of how it sounds with the vocals after they're processed. So that's it guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit about vocal processing. If there's any particular parts that you want me to delve into a little bit deeper, please just comment below or drop me a line. Happy to expand on any of these concepts. Like I said, vocal producing is not a one size fits all. There's many ways to be able to do this. This is kind of just the way I tend to do it, and it seems to work for me. At least my workflow seems to work okay. But like I said, there's many other ways, and I'm sure there's much better ways to be able to do this. But for someone who's doing a lot of their own vocal comping for yourself or for other singers, is a really good way to be able to do this. I haven't covered things in there on how to set delays, or at least not in depth on how to actually set delays and echoes and all that. So if you want me to do that, I can do that as well. Just once again, comment below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Spotify at Shay Jose. I also have a Patreon program. If you want to get some one-on-one lessons, I do have some openings at the moment, or you want to actually see some of the other videos or project templates or sound design. So make sure you check out patreon.com/Shay Jose official if you want to get more information, or the link will be down below as well. So until next time guys, I'll see you around.